You can't stand there.
All right, I think we're good. Ravens, it wasn't pretty, uh, other than one play, which will be my favorite play of all time, and we'll talk about it forever. Welcome to the Project Game Day postgame show. Ravens do indeed clinch the AFC North, and they'll finish the regular season 12-5, with what ended up being a blowout win over the Browns, although it didn't look that way well into the fourth quarter. Project Game Day made possible by 1-800-GAMBLER and helpmygamblingproblem.org. No cost treatment now available for those wanting help with a gambling problem. So now we wait on a couple other. I guess if we wait on this next game, and if the Steelers win that, then the Ravens know that it'll be the Chargers, and if the Steelers lose that, then we'll wait a little bit longer to tomorrow, and we will see what plays out. KZ is first up with us on postgame. KZ, your final thoughts today? Your
Oh,
first.
I don't know. I wanna be bothered by some things, but I also, they got the job done. They won. Somebody who didn't see the game would say, "Oh, the Ravens won in a blowout tonight," and it never felt that way. But it also never felt that the Browns were really trying to win a football game. Maybe the defensive front four for the Browns were. Um, but it was lackluster. I don't know if Andrew's going to join us today, but um, I was really bothered by the penalties, especially the pre-snap
Mhm.
penalties. Um, that's not good enough. It's an effort that everything that you would have concerns about with the Ravens in the playoffs at some point kind of showed its face today during this game. You're worried about the penalties and the timing of the penalties. And what did they have? At least three pre-snap offensive penalties.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
final penalty number is 10 for 83, but to your point, I don't have them specifically, but and not just the pre-snap penalties. The offensive line on the whole was awful. It was
no,
awful.
they were dominated today. Um, Stevens, I know he made the one play, but teams are going to continue to pick on him. He's got to play better. Um, I just it was lackluster. At the end of the day, you're going to look up and you're going to see Lamar probably, percentage wise had one of his worst days, but really wasn't helped by some drops and a couple of good plays by the Browns. But at the end of the day, you're going to see no picks, two touchdowns, ran for I don't know what the final number was, but maybe 70 yards. Henry's going to have two touchdowns and 150 yards total offense, but he only had 8 yards rushing in the first half. And then we got to hope that what we think is the Ravens being overly cautious
Yeah.
with Zay Flowers. It he was in pain. He went off on his own power. Looked like a knee to knee type thing or a knee to shin. You hope nothing's broken, and it's just the Ravens being overly cautious. But just a lackluster, a ho hum 35-10 win if you can say that.
Well, I think you can, and I'm sure when Femi hops on with us, I'm gonna guess that he's gonna say something like that. Although I've been wrong, he'll join us here in just one second. Yeah, I think it's okay to use the word lackluster. I mean, they got the job done. They did what they needed to do today. They needed to win the division. They needed to be at home next week, and those things are taken care of. But yeah, I mean, sure, the offensive line, it was a brutal day, and I'm with you. The pre-snap penalties in particular, frustrating. They got to hold on to the football. These are things that you're able to get away with against a Browns team that, was not good to begin with and then decimated on top of it. But these tendencies can't continue as you move into the postseason and even next week against either the Chargers or the Steelers. Hey, Baltimore welcomes the excitement of the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at the CFG Bank Arena from February 25th to March 1st. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. And on cue, our Super Bowl 35 champion, our friend Mr. Femi Ayanbadejo, with us here on Project Game Day. Femi, I might get out of the business of guessing the way that you're feeling. I'm assuming that you're not thrilled with what you saw today. but obviously happy that they won the division, and all the result is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, because of where we are at this point in the season, I have the ability to go microscopic and really analyze this game and what it means in regard to just how they played today. But I also can kind of telescopically look forward and kind of take measure of the season and say, man, they're a damn good football team, right? The only threat to their ability to win a Super Bowl is really just them, in my opinion. They're the most talented team in the NFL. I said this last year. I'm saying it this year. But you alluded to some things before I came on, right? The penalties in all three phases are a problem. The offensive line got their ass kicked today. Let's just be honest.
Just demolished.
Outside of Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry and Lamar being Lamar, the score is not really indicative of how physical the offensive line got handled today. But on the flip side, the defense really did a good job. Other than some penalties and Brandon Stevens, I don't know what he's doing lining up on the inside when he's in man coverage, giving the corner route, giving the out route. I don't know what he's doing. I'm hoping he gets that corrected because, the guys we have are the guys that we have at this point. So, I kind of feel how you feel. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm not going to let the score is 35-10, right? And I understand who they're playing and I understand the circumstances. That hasn't lost me, but I do think that it's kind of hard to go out there and play like you're playing Pittsburgh, 3 weeks ago, right? It's not the same game, but my challenge to the Ravens, and I want to make sure people understand what I mean by this, be the thermostat, not the thermometer, right? I think too often the national temperament of the game and the visibility of the game, the Ravens are going to show up under the bright lights. Always do, always have, probably always will. But when they play against some of these lesser teams, they come down to them, right? They're being a thermometer instead of setting the thermostat, right? Make everyone play your game all the time, 24/7, 365. If they can figure out how to do that, that accounts for everything we're talking about. That accounts for focus on penalties. That accounts for being outside leverage and man coverage when you're playing man-to-man. That accounts for offensive holding. That accounts for late hits on the quarterback. That accounts for everything, right? So yeah, I'm happy overall. So I don't want to get too lost in what happened today because we know what this was. But good season so far. We're on track to our goal.
Now, by the way, I very much appreciate the set the temperature, don't take the temperature, right? And like let have them come to you. And I don't know, today it just sort of seemed a little off. To your point, it probably felt a little bit like a preseason game. It kind of felt a little we're not, this isn't like the other games that we played, and you can say better than we can. There's probably a human nature to that, right? That like no matter what you say during the course of the week, no matter what practice looks like asking these guys to walk out on a field and feel like they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers for the division, it's got to be a really difficult thing for guys to have felt. And I'm not trying to make an excuse or anything along those lines, but
it's human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want this to turn into, and look, I can't control what anybody else says, but I'm not going to turn this into a nitpicking negative. I'm not doing that today because it's just not necessary. They're 12-5. They won the division. 4 weeks ago, they had a 35% chance to win the division, right? And they've come out here and they came out of the bye and they've won 4 straight games. This has been their worst performance, but once again, no excuses. But the psychology and the mental behind it, we kind of understand why. You know what I'm saying? 100%. But the thing that I will say is that you can control the penalties and your focus. You know what I mean? Like you can control those things, in my opinion. I just would have loved to seen a little bit cleaner game. And special teams for me is still a bit of a problem in that return game. They give up way too many yards on returns. Like that's something that needs to be cleaned up. But, Lamar has not just season records. This dude has all-time high, like life NFL historical records today, right? Like let's not lose sight of that either. He broke the rushing yard record for a touchdown for a quarterback last week. He's the first quarterback in NFL history with 4,000 yards and over 900 yards rushing now. He's the first quarterback ever with 40 touchdown passes and 40 touchdowns and less than 5 interceptions to ever do it. I don't know what his rating is going to end up. It's probably not he's probably around 50% passing. I don't think he's going to end up with that 123 or whatever we needed, but he has every other record basically. We're talking about passing records. Pure passing record. Let's take that in for a moment. When this man was drafted, everyone said that he was a running back playing quarterback. I mean, we learned quickly, and if you watched him at Louisville, you know that he was a lot more than that, which is what Ozzie Newsome saw. I am just so grateful that he's on our team. And I'm going to focus more on that and what Lamar needs to do to win next week than what happened today. Although today, I understand some of the frustration for sure. Totally get it.
Sure, we'll focus on some of those things. Femi, quickly, because Ken and I already talked about, we'll try to get some word from John Harbaugh here in a minute about Zay Flowers, and hopefully it was precautionary. Hopefully, it wasn't serious. But how concerning does that become for you if Zay Flowers misses even one playoff game?
Yeah, my biggest fear was that somebody would get hurt in this game, but this game was a necessary game. Like you had to win this game. You couldn't go out there and do less, right? So it's the thing that makes me a little bit less concerned is that I saw the clashing of the knees. I've had that happen to me before. I know exactly what that injury is like. It's a bruise. Now, how flush was that hit? Was it to the side? That swelling can come out in a couple of days. He could be he might not practice for a couple of days, but he could be out there next weekend and it'll be like it never happened. Or it could swell up so badly that's going to take a week or 10 days for the thing to drain. And hopefully there's no cartilage damage underneath that, because that's what happened to me at one time. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's an ACL, MCL, PCL thing at all. I think it's a bone bruise, kneecap bruise issue. And I don't know anything other than that. But based on what I saw from my experience as an NFL player, that's my kind of quick and dirty analysis on that. But yeah, it's not good. But I'll tell you this. We've seen this team perform without Mark Andrews. We've seen this team perform with running backs. J.K. Dobbins gone, right? I'm not saying that that Zay is more important than those guys, or those guys are less important than Zay. This team is chocked full of talented offensive players, right? So they'll miss him for sure, but I don't believe that'll be the reason they succeed or don't succeed if he misses a game.
All right. Make your trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass way for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com. A couple of things that, and I'll just jump around to some of the notes that I took during the course of the game so we can get to them. The first, Odafe Owe does get the 10 sacks. Odafe Owe has been much maligned. Ken, you can go ahead and raise your hand. You're at the top of that list. I didn't see a 10.
Still today, okay.
I mean,
he's really rounded into a hell of a. He's really rounded into a hell of a player. I don't know if you watch him on run defense and run stopping, and he's a hell of a football player now.
I get it all. It took a while. My only concern was when they drafted him. I was like, it's going to take a while. They took a project, and it took him a few years.
Well, here we are. He's doing it.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't see 10 sack Odafe Owe season coming this year, and early on in the year, I didn't know that I saw it, and I was never. I saw the same things. There was a lot of good about Odafe Owe, but I do think that there was a lot of questions about, but was he going to live up to being a first-round pick? Was he going to live up to being the edge rusher that the Ravens needed him to be? Dude, this has been a really phenomenal season. It's been an absolutely, and the truth is, his win rate a year ago kind of predicted this. Like his win rate a year ago was
one of the best in the league, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Top 10 in the league.
And he doesn't have Jadeveon Clowney either. You know what I mean? Kyle Van Noy is a hell of a football player. I don't know if you take a healthy Kyle Van Noy and a healthy Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, you'd love to have them both like we did a year ago, right? But like, I guess in the minds of, you know what's crazy? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, Kyle Van Noy probably had a better football season than Jadeveon Clowney based on the numbers, right? We know that, but also based on the talent.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So let me not say anything stupid in the moment. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Kyle Van Noy is a hell of a football player, probably deserved to make a Pro Bowl, but if you look at the guys that made it ahead of him, like, damn, who do you like take off the list, right? You know?
It's still crazy to me that Kyle Van Noy was unemployed at the start of the season last year.
It's wild.
It was
unemployed. He was cut by the Dolphins. He was cut by who drafted him? Was it somebody else drafted him? He ended up in New England later, but I think it wasn't
the Patriots that drafted him. Wow,
I don't think so.
Oh no, it was the Chargers, wasn't it?
The Chargers cut him. The Dolphins cut him, and then he found his way to make a living with New England. They figured out how to use it.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
We got to go back. He was drafted by the Lions.
Oh shit.
Then the Patriots, then the Dolphins, back to the Patriots, the Chargers, and then to the point was sitting on the couch at the end of the preseason last year, thinking, as he told us, that there was a real chance his career was over. And now he just had a second straight outstanding season, 12 and a half sacks. This dude, man, this dude is etching his way into Ravens lore
Big
at
time.
this point. What this guy has
Yeah.
done over these last 2 years,
I
it's
mean,
phenomenal.
the guy I can compare him to from an impact perspective is probably Anquan. You know what I mean? On the other side of the
Wow,
ball. You know what I
wow,
mean? Think about Anquan's effect. You know what I mean? On the Ravens.
yeah,
Don't have the Super Bowl yet, but Anquan was kind of the go-to guy on offense as a wide receiver. Obviously with Torrey, and they had a great, they had Dennis, they had a bunch of good guys on offense, but just think of the impact. Like Kyle has lifted this team in a way on defense that I think, and this is very qualitative. This is not quantitative. We're looking at two guys on different sides of
right,
the ball.
right.
Veterans, end of their career, probably thinking, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Anquan gets traded from the 49ers. Kyle sitting at home on the couch. They're both in their early 30s, and boom. You know what I mean? I don't know if you like that comp, but I thought, off the top of my head, that was kind of
I hold Anquan in like a wholly like reserved way because he was so effing nails in the run to the Super Bowl, right?
yeah.
Like I think of Anquan in a way that I don't think of a lot of just because, I think of 3rd and 1 in the Super Bowl on the back shoulder.
Yeah.
Just,
I hear you. I just think that like
like,
from the veteran kind of been there, has done
no,
it, brings a calm. And Kyle and Van Noy has two Super Bowl rings already,
right,
doesn't he? With the
right. He
Patriots.
does. He does. Yes.
Anquan has two as well. Right? No, he has one because he
Just
lost
the
with
one.
Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So did you know that Anquan and I were teammates for 4
Wow.
years? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I hadn't
I
thought
was
about
I was
that
teammates
math.
with Anquan and Larry at Fitzgerald in Arizona.
God, man. I
And
hadn't even thought
I've
about
known
that, man.
Larry since he was a ball boy. When I played for the Vikings,
Sure,
Larry,
that
like
makes
me and
sense.
Larry
Yeah.
used to
Yeah,
play
that makes
catch
sense.
together.
Yep.
He was like 13 years old. I've known Larry since he was 13, which is wild. And to watch Anquan and Larry play together is an insane thing to experience, brother. Let me tell you that.
Dude, so I ended up in Arizona right after you left for 2 years working out there, and it was just a freaking joy. I mean, the Denny year obviously was tough, but like,
Yeah.
God, those two dudes, man, that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. All right, yes, Dafe Owe, I want to say that, and I'm glad we talked about Kyle Van Noy because holy crap, what a story Kyle Van Noy has been. Another thing that was on my list that I just want to go through from today, and then we can move forward. Yeah, a couple of guys that have maybe not gotten this. Dude, Chris Board, man, what a story Chris
Man.
Board. Like,
Right?
what a freaking story Chris Board has been. And the way he plays the ball to me, Femi, is the part that,
Yeah.
like, and I think that maybe as we look back on how things changed, it's something that a lot of these guys, Darius Washington plays the ball. Chris Board plays the ball. Like when it's coming to his area, he is playing the ball every time, not playing a man. I'm just really blown away by how this dude has just stepped in and balled the way.
Michael Pierce plays the ball.
Holy S, dude. We were.
The best part about when you look at the replay is like he broke on the ball to get it.
He
Like
did.
it was
He
it
did.
was
It was so
fantastic.
good.
It's like
It was
it
so
was
good.
so good
It
because
was so
you're
good.
just like, oh my God, Pierce just intercepted the ball. But then when they show the replay and you say, wait a minute, he broke
He
on the
broke
ball.
on the ball.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He stepped through. He wanted to make a pick. He wanted to come
I
away with
wish
the
part of
point.
me wishes
So
he just would have kept running though. I want
I
to see
know.
I want to see what was gonna happen, dude.
they pulled Todd Monken's reaction here. I'll make sure I show it to you guys. It was great. Hopefully you can see. He's yelling him, go, go.
Wow, that's
He
wild.
he saw the end zone. He's like, that's too far, man. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like it just is never happening, dude. Michael Pierce, and again, we talk about guys like that, their stories and where they are. Like Michael Pierce, everything that he went through. He went to Minnesota, and it just didn't work out there after he signed for a lot of money, and he just wasn't able to stay on the field. To come back and to write another chapter of his story in Baltimore, and we talked about it just the last couple of weeks. Like they are a different team when he's on the field. Like they're just what he offers up front, and then you could see, the way that the sideline lost their mind. I mean, just utterly lost their mind for that dude making that play. I will not forget that for a long time, man. That was such a cool moment. At all surprised by the fact that like early on in the game, it looked like they weren't going to be aggressive, right? That first drive, they didn't go for it on 4th down. Then they ended up going for it on 4th down frequently after that point, frequently, and struggled. What did you make of the decision making on 4th down?
I mean, I was fine with it. You're talking about the Ravens, right? Because
Yeah,
okay, all right, yeah. I mean, I think that the play that I want back is the pass that Lamar threw to Derek. It's like Lamar got caught in between. I wish he would have just kind of just said, okay, I'm just gonna, like, he was open. Just throw it out there early, let him run up. You could tell Lamar knew he got caught in between. We haven't seen Lamar in between very often this year at all. That was one of the few times I'm like, oh damn, he was really caught in between right there. I don't have a problem with it. It's in their identity now. If you're gonna go for it in LA on your own 18-yard line and make Ken think that you look thirsty or desperate, whatever he said when he said it back then. I'm just talking a little shit, Ken. I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
That was weeks ago, man. I don't even remember what I said.
Oh, you don't? I do. I just said it. I just reminded you. I literally just quoted you verbatim. Anyway, it's all good. If anybody wants to get that video to make sure that I got it right, go ahead and look and
I don't know which one it was. You gave me two.
It was
two.
No, it was.
Was it desperate or what was it?
You said desperate. You said desperate.
I think you said desperate. I do.
Yeah,
I think you said desperate.
We'll go with desperate.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is that I'm good with it. And I think that based on the fact that they were highly underpowered on offense, it kind of allows you to do that kind of stuff. I think in a more contested game that you have less, there's more unknowns about, you're going to be a little bit more conservative because you still think you got the more talented team and you're playing at home. Early on, you just kick the field goal in some of those things, or I think a lot of those were some of them were in the red zone, right? I mean, I'm trying to think. I can't remember where they were.
One was
right
on the
30.
Yeah, it was right on the edge. And that was the one where they were going into the wind. And so it seemed like that was part of the factor there, is that apparently pregame, Justin Tucker had been struggling on that side of the field. So I do think that was likely. If that was in the penultimate drive of the first half, obviously the ultimate drive of the first half was the one where they just didn't have a timeout and they got close, but didn't have.
That penalty on that run by Lamar, that was a great play call.
Oh God, what a cool call that was!
Because I really wanted to get Tuck one kick, just one, and I wanted it to be from 50. You know what I mean? Just to keep him oiled up, and he looks really good. Like the way he's kicking the ball through the goalpost. I'm looking at how it's tracking. I'm looking at the spin. It just looks centered. Everything looks really good. But I would have loved him to get a field. That's one of the things that I wish we could have saw. But we'll take what we can get, right?
I hate being the guy that does this. I tell you I am concerned about, and I know, like, again, what a nice world we're living in if I'm bringing this up. Jordan Stout to me has really had a rough season, man. Like I don't see it. I don't see it almost makes me think that when you're outside the 40, like the first drive of the game, I have so little faith in his ability to pin the ball on a punt inside the 10-yard line and be dangerous and be a weapon. And then obviously a shank later on in the game, and it just sort of feels like they've been about 8 to 10 of those this season. I get it. We've lived a good life. We've lived a charmed life where there has been good punting and great special teams over the years. But boy, it has been a rough season for Jordan Stout this year.
Yeah, the offense has covered a lot of that up,
though.
Right?
You're right to bring it up. It's been a problem. It's been a problem. And as you get into these close games, you're going to need to have a good punt. And it's not necessarily the one whether you should go for it depending on where you are in the field. But when you're back and you're looking, your backs are at your old goalpost to kind of switch the field. You can't have shanks there. You can't have just a ho-hum 40-yard kick there. But again, we are where we are. It's kind of like
they're not switching punters, right?
Right, like Femi said. I mean, these are the guys you have, and it is what it's been. But again, I think that going into the offseason, I think they do have to look at him a little bit closer.
Again, it's a nice life when our concern is the punter.
Right.
It is a nice life. It is a first world problem when that's the case. But again, it's just something to point out.
Hey, what was up with Makari?
Yeah, that was weird, right? So
they just rest him because I know he was a little banged up and stuff.
Right.
So I'm assuming because they called that hold on Voorhees. It was pretty ticky tacky, honestly. I don't know if you got a chance to see that hold that they called.
Yeah,
I agree.
It was.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Jess Rebeck said that he was dealing with an illness, I think.
Oh, that's right. He was sick all week. Yeah, he had a stomach bug or something.
And then I think at halftime he had only played 6 snaps, McCary. So again, you assume that's what it is, and not that it's something more longer term, or that they've committed to Andrew Voorhees, anything along those lines. But yeah, we will see if there's a further update about that. All right, quickly, PressBox's annual Best of issue is available now. On the cover, we celebrate our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year honoree, Lamar Jackson. Also inside, a collection of the top people, performances, and moments of the year in local sports. You can find the Best of issue all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can read it all right now at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, there she is, the NFL chick. Reeta Hubbard has made her way over to our Project Game Day post-game show. Reeta, it's good to see you. Again, we're reacting very much a, lackluster performance, but you take a division title, and you now go get ready for the playoffs. Your reaction to what you saw today? Oh, you got to unmute yourself, friend. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there we go. Happy New Year, everybody. First of all,
Happy New Year, Reeta.
I will take lackluster if it equals 35 points any day of the week over yes. Was it sloppy? Because penalties were there, yes. Were there probably more points from the board when they didn't convert the fourth downs? Yep, 1,000%. But if lackluster equals 35 points, I'm going to take lackluster 35 points any day of the week over a spectacular performance that leads to 27 points. So I'm sure that the Ravens know that going into the playoffs, they got some things they still need to work on. Penalties. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain about a team that had a 20-point betting, spread and covered that spread. I'm never going to complain. Are you concerned about potentially how that looks in the playoffs? I'm not, though. That's the thing. I'm not concerned.
So let's talk about that, because I wanted to do that exercise with everybody, right? Is
Okay.
exactly where is our confidence now for this team going into the playoffs? Femi, is pulling back what he said a year ago, that this is the most talented team and that, only they can beat themselves. And I think there's probably maybe I still need to show a little more respect to Kansas City. Like, as human as they look, they win their games. They no one is ready for the moment more than the Kansas City Chiefs are when everything is at stake. But I'm probably pretty close to agreeing with that. But Reeta, I'll start with you. Where is your confidence level in this team going into the postseason?
My confidence level is high because at the end of the day, when you look at how they've played against teams that are over 500, they've done well. Obviously, they didn't beat the Chiefs in week 1. They were a toe away from tying that game, but also that was week 1. And the Ravens team that we saw in week 18 didn't have an opportunity to play in preseason the way that the Chiefs did in preseason. So for me, that game was them just kind of getting, they were just getting, it was kind of like preseason for them. And it just kind of was extensive because those guys didn't have snaps in the first 3 games. But when you start looking at what they did moving forward, and once they started getting into a role by week 4 is when they played Buffalo, you can't, they can beat anybody. I think that the Ravens, and particularly when you start looking at how better this defense has played over the last 6 weeks,
7 weeks, yeah.
7 weeks, you have to feel good about what it is that they can do. Now, obviously, what the issue is with Zay, we need to see how that goes, right? That is something, and I'm hoping it's just like a knee contusion, because he ran into a guy and he hit him. So I'm hoping that he's going to be okay because they need him.
Yeah, real quick, there is an update as Griffin's sharing with us right now. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow, but John Harbaugh says he has a chance to be ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So probably about what you were talking about earlier, Femi, probably about exactly that. But that's the update from John Harbaugh about Zay.
Yeah, so my thing is that, Zay is going to have to be a part of this process. I don't want to sit here and say you need him because you got Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson is always going to make things shake. And I'm sure that there are some plays today that Lamar, there was an overthrow. There was the fourth down play where he tried to get it to Derrick Henry, who was wide open. But at the end of the day, those things are going to happen each and every game. So I don't hold him to that. You know what I'm saying? at the end of the day, I still think that this team could compete with anybody. It doesn't matter. And I'm with you, Glenn. I can't. I know there's been weeks where I didn't put the Chiefs as the number one team, even though they have the best record in the NFL. But I know what the Chiefs are like in the playoffs, because last year we thought that was their worst team, and we saw what happened. They won the Super Bowl. So I'm never going to disrespect them, because at the end of the day, they're very well coached and they have Patrick Mahomes. But at the end of the day, Jackson, who is the MVP, by the way, I got to reiterate that. You know how I feel about that, Glenn. I don't ever feel like that they don't have a chance as long
I
as
get
Lamar
it.
Jackson is healthy. So that's where I stand with that.
I agree. I'll go to KZ next, then I'll let Femi share his thoughts on it. KZ, where's your confidence going into the postseason?
I agree with Femi. I mean, the only team that can stop the Ravens is the Ravens. I truly believe that. I believe, like last year, they are the most talented football team. They corrected the one glaring issue that they had early in the season, which was the defense, and the defense has been excellent. And you don't think that they have to win in a shootout, and the Superman cape has to come out every single week. But the penalties, as Reeta said, and I opened with, they're still a concern for me. The pre-snap at home crowd, you shouldn't have the pre-snap penalties like that, in my opinion, but I know they happen. But and I'm sure the one holding was ticky-tacky. I thought the
roughing the
roughing the
passer was
passer
brutal.
was ticky-tacky,
Just
but
awful.
I mean, what do I know? But that's the one thing that can stop them, and it's been a problem all year, and it really has never been corrected through 18 weeks, is the penalties. And I think that's the only thing that can really derail what I think is the most talented. I agree, it's the most talented team in football.
Femi, your confidence level going to the postseason.
Well, Ken, just to be clear, I agree with you on the penalty stuff in general. If you have procedural penalties that are taking away 15-yard plays and, first down conversions, potentially touchdowns, yeah, that's definitely going to be a problem. But that's, once again, a self-inflicted thing. It kind of falls in that bucket for me. But if you look back, and maybe Griffin can pull this up, I think they had 2 penalties last week. I think they had 3 or 4 the week before.
Yeah.
After the bye, I thought they had got it under control, honestly. I felt like they had to put a couple games together there where the penalties were very minimal. Everything was really clean, right? And that doesn't really matter right now because they're ending the season with 9 penalties to end the final game, right? So, but in regard, you guys know how I feel about this team. To me, this is the most talented team in the NFL. And the fans, coaches, and players agree. They have the most Pro Bowlers. They even have alternates that we haven't even talked about. You know what I mean? My concern, so I agree with everything you guys have said. And just to reiterate the data, one of the top offenses in NFL history, they're going to finish 3rd in yards per play in NFL history.
There was another stat I saw. Is this the first time there's ever been a 4,000-yard passing, 3,000-yard rushing offense? Is that a stat that I saw today? I gotta pull that up, because that one jumped off the page at me as well.
That's correct. That's true.
Yeah. That's nuts.
And we know all the records that Lamar set this season. Do you know that Lamar is the only player? There's been 5 games with a 99.8 QBR game. Lamar has 3 of them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I mean? And it's just crazy. Like, we can sit here and talk, wax poetic all day long about what he's done. But I have the utmost confidence in this team. There are 2 teams, in my opinion, that can give the Ravens a run for their money in a clean game. That is Pittsburgh, because they're just as physical as Cleveland in the trenches. We handled them a week ago. Or I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago, we handled them. Yeah, but the offensive line was on their P's and Q's, and that was a must-win that we needed. Today, obviously, wasn't that. But other than the trenches, I think skill for skill, we dominate Pittsburgh. But skill doesn't matter when you lose in the trenches. It's the ultimate eraser, minimizer, bringing things down to the ground. The other team, in my opinion, is Kansas City, right? I will say they're the number 1 team because they're playing like the number 1 team right now. They're rounding right into shape, right on time. We saw them last week. We saw them the week before. They're kicking people's asses and taking names. They didn't have their best defensive player out there, and they kicked the shit out of Pittsburgh, right? Was that Pittsburgh? Yeah, I think it was Pittsburgh, right?
On Christmas,
so we know, but I love that. I love it because guess what? I talk about being the thermostat and not the thermometer. Well, it won't matter against Kansas City. It's going to be thermostats and thermometers be damned. It's going to be one of those games that everybody's going to show up. It's going to be the biggest game of the playoffs. And I think everybody else physically in the trenches, we've already seen that movie before. We already know how that looks. As long as the Ravens play their game, I don't think Buffalo could be a close game, but I think the Ravens can win that game. I think the Chargers to me, they're a little more finesse. They're trying to be bullies and big boys because of Jim Harbaugh. And I see where they're going. I still think they're a little early in the process, but if you go around and mess around, then any of these teams can beat you. But I'm assuming that they're going to play Raven style football. They're going to show up. They're going to check, cross the T's and dot the I's and do what they're supposed to do. I have the utmost confidence. I made the prediction a year ago that we're going to see the Ravens and the Chiefs in the AFC title game again, and the Ravens are going to win this time. Like, that's the thing I've been saying since day one of last year. Anyone that'll let me say it, that's what I've been saying. And it seemed really far away at times during the season. It seemed like implausible at certain times. You're like, well, I don't know. They might not get there. By the way, the penalties and the defense was bad. Since week 9, actually, not week 11, I think since week 9, the Ravens have the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL across the board in numerous statistics. So I'll decide. And they did it against good teams too, by the way. They have played every single playoff team in the AFC. They've beaten everybody except Kansas City.
Right. Yep, by a toe. Otherwise, and even if Cincinnati gets in, obviously, like the top, so include another team on that list.
And can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing? I'm sick of this. You don't want to see Cincinnati. Bring their ass here. I don't give a damn. They can come here too. All this people, nobody wants to see Cincinnati. Really? Have you guys been watching? Joe Burrow has about 2,500 yards passing when they're losing. I don't want to hear about Joe Burrow MVP. No, he's an amazing quarterback. I love me some Joe Burrow. More athletic than Brady, is more accurate than Manning, probably. More athletic than Brady, more accurate than Manning is what I said. Right. I don't want people to lose their minds. But this dude, Joe Burrow, is definitely a problem, but they're not a complete team. If they find a way to get in, God bless them. I just don't see how they win a playoff game with that defense. I just don't see it. Now, they could probably do it, but I just don't see it.
We could say their defense has been a little bit better than they were, in part because they were, on pace to be one of the worst defenses in the history of football. So you could say that, but I'm actually with you on this, Femi. I've talked about it all week. Like, I have zero fear of the Bengals. As yes, they just put a touchdown on the board.
I just hate how they don't qualify the Joe Burrow statistics. Like, dude, let's have somebody do an analysis on those passing touchdowns and yards. When you're up, what's even more impressive is the style the Ravens play, and look at Lamar's numbers. How many more passes does Joe Burrow have than Lamar? I don't know, but I guarantee you it's a whole bunch.
Yeah, if we went, I was trying to pull up EPA. Hang on a second. I'll see if I can't pull that up. In the meantime, I do want to remind everybody that the CIAA tournament is returning to Baltimore. Very excited. The Food Lions CIAA men's and women's basketball tournaments at the CFG Bank Arena, February 25th to March 1st. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. I had wanted to pull up the because look, this has been relevant in the debate about MVP, and I am with Reeta. I do, and I assure everybody else, I think Lamar Jackson is the MVP of 100%. The NFL. I 100% think so. Now we'll see, right? Like we'll see, because I do think it's possible that the voters are going to end up going a different way, but I do think he's the MVP of the league, and there's a reason why ESPN's QBR rating, he's still clear of both Joe Burrow and Josh Allen at this point. So I got nothing else to say about it. All right, you said you got Kansas City at number 1. Let's go ahead and do top 5 teams to wrap it up. Top 5 teams going into the playoffs. Where are we at? That's the question. Griffin, I'll let you start. What you got for top 5?
Shoot, I was not.
Way to be prepared for the moment. Way to handle the moment, man. Mom's spaghetti.
I can have it ready. I can have it ready.
The whole thing. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. We give him his opportunity, his moment to shine, and he punts. I'll bail you out for a second. I'll have the Ravens still at 5, the Lions at 4, the Bills at 3, the Vikings at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. But to the point, in my heart of hearts, I do believe the Ravens are a better team than the Bills. I do believe that. A better team. It's just that I give credit to the results, and so that's where I've got them ranked where they're ranked.
Okay, got it. I think, man, I don't know what to do about Philly just with the whole Jalen Hurts thing. I feel like that, I feel like he's going to be ready to go for the playoffs. But for now, I am gonna knock them out of the top 5. So I will go Buffalo 5. I will go Baltimore 4. I'll go ahead and give the Vikings their due. They're 3, Lions 2, Chiefs 1.
KZ.
I'm gonna go Ravens 5, Philly 4, Minnesota 3, KC 2, Detroit 1.
All right. Reeta.
Yeah, me and Griffin are on the same page there. So, and look, I understand Buffalo has a better record. They played not the same schedule, and the division is not as good. So I have to put the Ravens over the Bills, and also they got skull dragged by the Ravens. So I do have to
That
do
did
Buffalo.
happen. Did happen.
Definitely happened. I seen it with my own eyes. So Buffalo, Ravens. What did you say? Lions, Vikings, and Chiefs?
Yeah, Vikings 3, Lions 2,
Yeah,
Chiefs.
that's me. That's me. Although I have a premonition, and I could be wrong, that the Vikings are going to find a way to win this game. So I might have to switch that. But it has to happen first for me to say that.
Femi.
Yeah, I got Detroit winning. I think I'm in the minority on that. Everybody and their mother has Minnesota winning. I got Detroit. I'm not gonna doubt them unless they're playing the Ravens, because I've seen that movie already too. But I haven't put the Ravens in my top 5, but you guys know I think they're the most talented team in the league.
No, you made it very clear. You said you're not doing it. You want to keep them
I'm
pissed
not.
off.
Yeah, I'm not. So I'm not going to start today. So so let's just take that for what it is. You guys know where I stand on that. I'm not putting them in my top 5. I'm not putting them in any ranking at all. They're
not top 10. They're the worst. They're
nothing.
Yep.
No, it's not even that. They're just out there floating in space
in the ether.
Yeah,
they're just hanging in the ether.
I like it. I like it like that. I like it like that. And I know it's silly, but for me, it's what I've been doing and it's been working. So I'm just going to stick with it. I don't want to ruin the mojo. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate
so you guys
it.
know what I really think that if we were rating biggest threats to winning the Super Bowl, I would put the Ravens behind the Chiefs. Like, to me, they'd be number 2. But this is rankings, right? So this is rankings right now. So I'm going to go with Buffalo 5, Philly 4. Actually, I guess I got to switch that up. Actually, now I'm messing this up again because I keep having the Ravens in my mind, right? So hold on a second. I have it written down here.
I can tell everybody why you figured it. Make your trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass way for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com.
All right, here we go. I got Buffalo 5. I've got I'm going to assume that Jalen is going to be healthy. Okay, so I've got Buffalo 5, Eagles 4, Minnesota 3, Detroit 2, Kansas City 1.
I get it. I completely get it. I think I made my rankings sort of with the Jalen thing in the back of my mind, but you're right. If Jalen's healthy, they deserve that amount of respect. They do, because they still they haven't lost a game all season with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown on the field together.
Yeah, I honestly was tempted to put them 2, but because Jalen's a little bit of a question mark, I can't put them at 2. But if he's out there healthy and he's Jalen Hurts, they're definitely 2 for me. I think if they play any of the teams that I mentioned in front of them, if they play Buffalo, I think you saw what happens when Jalen's out there. And that defense is no joke. That's the best defense in the NFL, in my opinion, over the course of 18 weeks. It's Philly's defense. They are nasty. And in the trenches, dude, they are nasty. They're the only team in the NFC that I'm actually really worried about, because they can neutralize our offensive line, because I've seen that movie as well. Although we left shit out there on the field for sure, and we made some mistakes, they're the kind of team, along with Pittsburgh and Kansas City, that I think causes us a bit of problems, because in the trenches, that's where Philly's front 7 really excels. So for me, I honestly think they're the most complete NFC team, mainly because of all the injuries that Detroit has. But even if Detroit was healthy, I'm still not sure they could beat Philly all powers, everyone having full powers. I don't know. I think Philly for me is a problem. That's a team that I'm really...
To your point, the front is incredible, and then you add in what Quinyon Mitchell has done on the back end and Cooper DeJohn. Like, you add in those two. Their defense is nuts. It's nuts. Yeah. It's nuts what they put together.
And with Saquon and AB, like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, it's a problem, you know?
Like, the crazy part being, like, it probably requires Jalen Hurts throwing the ball on the ground a few times, which he is capable of doing. Right?
Oh, he will do. He will do, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, they're so good at what they do, and you know what they're going to do. They're not complicated at all. They're simple on defense and they're simple on offense. But they're such a brute force team that is really hard to stop for 60 minutes, especially when you take care of the football and you have an all-pro receiver that when you need to, you can throw it up to. And you have an all-pro running back that when you need to just hand it off to in the fourth quarter and everyone's broken down and tired, like they're very similar to the Ravens. The Ravens have a higher ceiling on offense especially, but that defense, man, it's nasty.
No, it's crazy. It is crazy on every level. And the season Zach Bond has had has just been bonkers, too, on top of everything else. All right, Ravens are AFC North champions. That's what really matters.
Is this the stat you wanted, Glenn? The Lamar Jackson stuff?
Well, no, that was some of the stuff. The stat is that as a team, it is correct. As a team, they're the first team in NFL history to finish with 4,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards, which is, it is crazy. Like, it's just nuts that that's never happened before in NFL history.
Well, I got one more.
Okay, one more.
I got one more Michael Pierce one. Hold on, I had it.
I can watch Michael Pierce content all week now.
Griffin. Hey, Griffin. I don't know who put that statistic up, but they had a typo in the rush yards. It should be 4,000 pass yards and 900 rush yards, not 600 rush yards.
Maybe only because it was 600. Already at 600. Yeah.
Hang on. According to True Media. I'm reading this. Michael Pierce is the only 355-pound player with an interception since at least 2000.
I'm just so glad that he made the executive decision of knowing that he was not going to make it and just said, I'm just going to go ahead and just stop here.
Just keeping it real.
Good for you, friend. Sometimes you just got to know your place. And he knew his place and he decided I'm not going to take this.
Hey, Reeta, but wasn't there a part of you that just wanted to see a collision though and see what that was going to look like?
Hey, listen, Femi, I low key wanted him just to try, right?
Yeah.
But I also respect knowing yourself. It's a good thing to know who you are. So I wanted to see it, but shout outs to him for knowing, hey, I probably wasn't going to get but like a couple more yards and I was going to get tackled.
But how good did he look breaking on it, though? He looked so good breaking on it, though.
He did.
I'm so glad to see him back, man. So glad.
It's the part that we love so much, like the idea of just Michael Pierce in coverage, but he's an effing football player, man. That guy is a football player. Yes, he's a monster. That dude is a football player. Yeah, it made me so happy. Yes. All right. Don't know yet, obviously, when it'll be. They try to line up so that because the one seeds tend to play the following Saturday. So they try to line it up that way that the teams that be playing. But who knows? Who knows how this all plays out? Whenever they end up playing, we know it'll be in Baltimore. Whenever they end up playing, we will be back with you following the game next weekend for Project Gameday, which of course is made possible by 1-800-GAMBLER. No-cost treatment now available for anyone wanting help with a gambling problem. The Ravens are back-to-back division champs. That feels good. We enjoy that. We celebrate that. And we go get ready for the playoffs. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us tonight. We will see you next week. This has been PressBox's